The first thing anyone noticed was the silence around her, a strange, heavy silence that followed her like a shadow through the bright, echoing halls of the airport, even though the place itself was bursting with announcements, rolling suitcases, and hurried footsteps under the clear daytime skylights. She stood there small and still near the departure gate, clutching a worn leather handbag, her eyes searching faces that passed her by without seeing her, while the world moved too fast to notice a woman who could not hear it. What no one knew was that this ignored, gray-haired woman was the mother of one of the most powerful CEOs in the country, and what no one expected was that a single, quiet act of kindness was about to change everything. Before the story unfolds, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Journal if you believe in kindness and second chances, because stories like this remind us how much a single human connection can matter in a crowded world. Her name was Anna Voss, and she had learned long ago how to survive in places that were not built for her. Deaf since childhood, she had grown up reading faces, memorizing routines, and teaching herself patience in a world that often mistook silence for weakness. That morning, sunlight streamed through the tall glass walls of the international terminal, illuminating polished floors and rows of plastic seats. Screens flashed flight updates in bold letters, but Anna stood too far away to read them clearly, and the printed boarding pass in her hand had begun to crease from nervous fingers. She was traveling alone for the first time in years, determined to prove to herself that she did not need protection, even if her son insisted she wait for assistance. He was busy, always busy, running meetings and boardrooms, trusting that airport staff would guide her when the time came. But assistance never arrived. Employees rushed past her with walkie-talkies clipped to their shoulders, calling out names she could not hear. Other travelers glanced at her briefly, then looked away when they realized she was not responding to their voices. One man waved a hand in front of her face impatiently before sighing and leaving. A woman rolled her eyes, assuming Anna was confused or slow. With each passing minute, anxiety tightened around her chest, not because she feared missing her flight, but because the familiar ache of being invisible returned. It was the same ache she had felt in classrooms, in grocery stores, in hospital waiting rooms, where people spoke over her instead of to her. As she stood there, her thoughts drifted to her son, Rowan Voss, a name known across financial news and business magazines. To the world, he was decisive, brilliant, untouchable. To her, he was still the boy who used to sit at the kitchen table, painstakingly practicing sign language until his fingers cramped, determined to speak to his mother in her own language. She remembered his small hands signing promises that he would always protect her, that one day he would build a world where people like her were never ignored. She smiled faintly at the memory, unaware that life was about to test that promise in an unexpected way. A few meters away, leaning against a column, stood a man named Elias Moreno. He was tired in a way that went beyond lack of sleep, the kind of exhaustion that came from carrying responsibility alone for too long. A single father, Elias was traveling with his young daughter, Sophia, who sat beside him coloring quietly on the floor. He had learned sign language years earlier, not by choice but by love, when his late wife began losing her hearing during their marriage. After she passed, the language stayed with him, a reminder of connection, grief, and the power of being understood. As Elias scanned the terminal, keeping one eye on the departure screen and one on his child, something about Anna caught his attention. It was not just her stillness, but the way confusion clouded her eyes as announcements echoed around her unheard. Elias watched as another announcement played across the overhead screen, and people around Anna stood up, gathering their belongings. She remained seated, unaware that boarding had begun. A flicker of recognition crossed his face, a quiet understanding of what was happening. Without hesitation, he walked toward her, kneeling slightly to meet her gaze at eye level. When he raised his hands and began to sign slowly, gently, Anna froze in shock. For a moment, she wondered if exhaustion had made her imagine it. Then the signs became clearer, unmistakable, asking if she needed help, explaining that her flight was boarding. Emotion surged through her, sudden and overwhelming. Her hands trembled as she responded, relief softening her features. Around them, the airport continued its chaotic rhythm, but within that small space, time seemed to slow. Elias explained where her gate was and offered to walk with her. He did not rush her or treat her like a problem to be solved. He simply walked beside her, matching her pace, occasionally glancing back to make sure she was comfortable. Sophia followed, curious but calm, sensing the quiet importance of the moment. As they moved through the terminal, Anara felt something she had not felt in a long time: dignity. Not pity, not obligation.